The massive alien ship floated above Earth like a silver mountain. Captain Maria Santos stood on the observation deck of the human starship Unity, watching the vessel that had changed everything. 3 months ago, humans thought they were alone in the universe. Now they knew better. The aliens called themselves the Galactic Confederation. They had thousands of worlds, millions of ships, and technology that made human science look like stone tools. When they first contacted Earth, their message was polite but clear. Humans were welcome to join their empire as a junior member. Maria remembered the excitement on Earth. First contact. Alien friends! A whole galaxy to explore! But as the weeks passed, the reality became clear. The aliens saw humans as children who had just learned to walk between the stars. Dr. Elena Vasquez walked up beside Maria, holding a data pad with translation notes. Elena was the team's expert on ancient languages and old writing systems. She had spent her life studying how humans learned to write thousands of years ago. Ready for the big tour? Elena asked. Maria nodded. Today, they would visit the Confederation's capital world. The aliens wanted to show humans their greatest treasures. They probably hoped to impress these primitive newcomers. The alien ambassador, Zektar, was a tall creature with blue skin and 4 arms. His species, the Zephyrians, had discovered faster-than-light travel when humans were still learning to make fire. At least, that's what he told everyone. "Welcome, human friends," Zektar said as they met in the transport bay. "Today you will see wonders that took our civilization 50,000 years to achieve." The human delegation included 12 scientists, 3 diplomats, and Captain Santos. They followed Zektar through corridors that seemed to be made of living crystal. Everything glowed with soft light. The ship itself was beautiful beyond anything humans had imagined. The capital world was called Nexus Prime. From space, it looked like a giant jewel. Cities of crystal and metal covered the continents. Ships moved between massive space stations like schools of fish. Elena counted at least 40 different types of alien architecture. "Our ancestors found this world 20,000 years ago," Zektar explained as their shuttle descended. "It was perfect for life, with ruins of an ancient civilization. We built our capital here to honor those who came before us." They landed at the Grand Museum, a building that rose into the clouds. Inside, alien families walked through halls filled with artifacts from across the galaxy. Children of dozen different species pointed at displays while their parents explained the wonders of their shared history. Zektar led them to the Hall of Origins. "Here," he said with pride, "we keep the most sacred relics of the observers." Elena had heard about the observers during the first contact meetings. Every species in the Confederation had legends about them. They were the mysterious race that had left ruins on hundreds of worlds. The aliens believed the observers were the first great civilization, the ones who had prepared the galaxy for those who came after. The first display case held stone tablets covered with strange symbols. The placard said they were 40,000 years old, found on a world at the edge of Confederation space. Alien scientists had spent centuries trying to understand the writing. Elena stopped walking. Her face went pale. "These symbols," she whispered. "Beautiful, aren't they?" Zektar said. "Our greatest scholars believe they represent mathematical concepts, but the exact meaning remains a mystery." Elena stepped closer to the case. Her hands shook as she read the symbols. The other humans gathered around her, seeing her strange reaction. "Elena?" Captain Santos asked. "What is it?" Elena's voice was barely audible. "I can read this." Zektar's forearms went still. Around them, alien visitors stopped talking. The hall grew quiet. "Impossible," Zektar said. "These tablets have puzzled our finest minds for thousands of years." Elena pointed to the first line of symbols. "This says, in the 3rd year of the great journey, We established the first garden worlds. The next line talks about seeding planets with life. She moved to the second tablet. This one describes how to change the air on a planet to make it safe for many different types of life. It's a terraforming manual. Zektar's skin changed from blue to pale gray. Other aliens in the hall moved closer, their conversations forgotten. Elena continued reading, translating text that had been a mystery for millennia. How? Zektar demanded. How can you read the observer script when our greatest linguists cannot? Elena looked at the symbols again, her mind racing. The writing style was familiar. Too familiar. It reminded her of ancient human writing systems she had studied on Earth. The mathematical symbols were like early versions of human mathematics. Even the grammar structure felt human. I need to see more artifacts, Elena said. Zektar led them through the museum in a daze. Every observer artifact they showed her, Elena could read. Star charts that placed Earth at the center of navigation. Routes. Agricultural guides that described crops similar to Earth plants. Art that showed figures that looked almost human. In the final display, Elena found proof that made her stomach turn cold. It was a small stone carving of a DNA double helix. Next to it were symbols that spelled out genetic codes. Codes that matched human DNA patterns. The other humans saw Elena's expression and gathered around the display. Captain Santos read the translation Elena had written on her datapad. The blood drained from her face. These aren't alien artifacts, Elena said quietly. What do you mean? Dr. Kim asked. Elena turned to face the group of aliens who had followed them through the museum. Zektar stood in front, his 4 arms hanging limp at his sides. Behind him, representatives of a dozen species waited for her explanation. The observers weren't aliens, Elena said. They were human. The words echoed through the hall like a thunderclap. Alien visitors stopped walking. Children stopped playing. The entire museum seemed to hold its breath. That's impossible, Zektar said, but his voice lacked confidence. Elena pointed to the DNA carving. This shows human genetic markers. The star charts use Earth as the central reference point. The mathematical systems are early versions of human mathematics. The writing evolved from human root languages. She gestured to all the artifacts around them. Everything in this museum was made by humans. Ancient humans who traveled the galaxy tens of thousands of years ago. Zektar's skin continued to pale. Around the hall, aliens began talking in urgent whispers. Some looked scared. Others seemed angry. A few appeared to be in shock. If this is true, Zektar said slowly, then everything we know about our history is wrong, Elena finished. The observers weren't a mysterious alien race. They were humans. And if these artifacts are as old as you say they are, then humans were traveling the galaxy long before any of your species developed spaceflight. Captain Santos stepped forward. We need to contact Earth immediately, and we need to examine every observer site in the Confederation. Zektar nodded numbly. The proud alien ambassador who had greeted them that morning was gone. In his place stood a creature whose entire understanding of the universe had just crumbled. News of Elena's discovery spread through the museum. Alien families began to leave. The proud displays of Confederation achievement suddenly felt different. Everything they had built, everything they had discovered, everything they believed about their place in the galaxy had just changed. Elena looked around the hall one more time. 40,000 years ago, humans had walked among these stars. They had built wonders and left them behind. Now their descendants had returned to find a galaxy full of civilizations built on human foundations. The question was, what did, that mean for everyone? News of Elena's discovery spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Within days, every major Confederation world buzzed with rumors and arguments. Some aliens refused to believe it. Others demanded proof. A few began to panic. The Galactic Council called an emergency session on Nexus Prime. Representatives from 47 species gathered in the great crystal dome that served as their parliament. For the first time in Confederation history, humans were invited to address the full assembly. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood at the center podium, surrounded by thousands of alien faces. Some looked curious. Others appeared hostile. Many just seemed confused and scared. Honored members, Elena began, we have spent the last 2 weeks examining observer artifacts across 12 worlds. What we found changes everything. She activated the holographic display above her head. Images of ruins appeared, sites that aliens had worshipped for thousands of years, but now human experts had studied them with fresh eyes. Every observer site we examined shows the same pattern. The architecture matches building styles found in ancient human ruins on Earth. The mathematical formulas carved into temple walls are primitive versions of human mathematics that we developed independently. The star maps all use Sol, our sun, as the central navigation point. Zektar sat in the front row, looking older than his 800 years. Beside him, Ambassador Krelnix of the Kethlari Empire shifted nervously. Behind them, representatives whispered among themselves in dozens of alien languages. Elena brought up a new set of images. Carbon dating shows these ruins are between 50 and 100,000 years old. The genetic samples we found in the biostorage chambers are human, not similar to human, not evolved from human. They are exactly human. She paused to let the words sink in. The great dome fell silent except for the soft hum of the life support systems. The observers weren't aliens. They were our ancestors. An explosion of noise erupted from the assembly. Aliens shouted questions in their native tongues. Some demanded more proof. Others called the humans liars. Security guards moved closer to the human delegation. Elena waited for quiet to return. When it did, she continued. But that's not the most difficult truth we discovered. She changed the display to show agricultural data. The Kethlari homeworld is famous for its perfect farming conditions. Your soil is exactly the right mixture for your crops. Your rainfall follows ideal patterns. Your growing seasons are perfectly timed. Krelnix leaned forward in his seat. We found the machines that created those conditions, Elena said. Buried 2 kilometers below your capital city are atmospheric processors of human design. They've been running for 60,000 years, maintaining the climate that allowed your species to develop agriculture. Krelnix stood up slowly. That's impossible. Our world has always been perfect for farming? Elena shook her head. We compared your soil to natural samples from undeveloped continents. The difference is clear. Your farmland was terraformed by humans. She turned to face the Zephyrian section. Your crystal cities are built on foundations of human smart matter. The crystals grow in perfect geometric patterns because they're following programs written by human engineers. We tested the activation codes. They still respond to human genetic signatures. Zektar's blue skin had turned almost white. Around him, other Zephyrians sat in stunned silence. Elena brought up linguistic analysis charts. Even your languages show human influence. Kethlari mathematical terms derive from ancient human root words. Zephyrian poetry follows rhythm patterns that match human linguistic development. 47 different alien languages contain human grammatical structures. The dome erupted again. This time, the shouting sounded angry. Some representatives stood and pointed at the human delegation. Others argued with their neighbors. A few species began to walk out. Ambassador Chen Wei, the head of the human diplomatic mission, stepped forward. Please let us finish our presentation. Why should we listen to more lies? Shouted Representative Vash of the hegemony worlds. You claim our entire civilization is built on human foundations. You insult everything we've achieved. We're not insulting anyone, Chen replied calmly. We're sharing what we discovered. The evidence is clear. Elena activated a new display. This one showed population growth charts and technological development timelines from across the galaxy. "Look at these patterns," she said. "Every major Confederation species developed agriculture at exactly the right time. You all discovered metallurgy when your populations needed it most. Your technological revolutions happened in perfect sequence. Spaceflight, computers, genetic engineering, faster-than-light travel, every species achieved these breakthroughs just when they were ready for them." She highlighted specific data points. The Kethalari discovered fusion power exactly when their fossil fuels ran out. The Zephyrians developed anti-gravity technology just as their crystal cities reached maximum stable height. The Veltar learned genetic modification right as genetic diseases threatened their species. "Coincidence," Vash declared. 47. "Coincidences?" Elena asked. "All perfectly timed? All following the same pattern?" She brought up one final image. It showed a vast network diagram connecting every observer site in the galaxy. Lines of communication linked them all in a complex web. The observer sites aren't separate ruins. They're nodes in a massive network. A network designed to monitor and guide developing civilizations, to provide help exactly when it was needed most. The dome fell silent again. This silence felt different, heavier, more frightening. Ambassador Chen stepped forward. "What Dr. Vasquez is telling you is that ancient humans didn't just live in the galaxy. They gardened it. They prepared worlds for life. They watched over developing species. They provided guidance and help when it was needed. But why?" Krelnix asked quietly. "Why would they do that?" Elena looked around the great dome at thousands of alien faces. Some looked angry. Others seemed scared. Many just appeared lost. "We found records," she said. "Partial files in the deepest archives. 60,000 years ago, something forced the ancient humans to leave. We don't know what. The records are damaged. But before they left, they made a choice." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "They could have taken their technology with them. They could have destroyed their settlements to prevent other species from using them. Instead, they left everything behind. Not as garbage, but as gifts. They prepared the galaxy for whoever came next." "You're saying," Zektar said slowly, "that everything we've built, everything we've achieved, was planned by ancient humans." Elena nodded. "Your civilizations developed because humans prepared the way. Your worlds were made ready for life. Your technological development was guided by systems they left behind. Even your languages carry traces of their influence." The weight of this revelation settled over the assembly like a heavy blanket. For thousands of years, the Confederation had taken pride in their achievements. They had built a great civilization spanning hundreds of worlds. They had thought themselves the worthy inheritors of the mysterious observers. Now they learned they were children playing with toys left behind by their parents. Some species would accept this truth with grace. Others would fight against it. Few would see it as an opportunity. But everyone in the dome that day understood that nothing would ever be the same again. The age of innocence was over. The galaxy's children had learned who their parents really were. Captain Sarah Torres stood on the bridge of the exploration ship Discovery, watching the most sacred site in the galaxy grow larger on the main screen. The first temple on Kepler 442b was where the Confederation believed intelligent life had first reached for the stars. Every alien child learned about this place in school. Now a joint human-alien research team was about to discover what the temple really was. "Approaching the holy site," reported Lieutenant Commander Kim. "All scanning. Equipment is active." Behind Sarah, Dr. Elena Vasquez worked with Zektar and 3 other alien archaeologists. The past month had been difficult for everyone. After Elena's presentation to the Galactic Council, riots had broken out on 17 worlds. Some aliens demanded that humans leave the galaxy immediately. Others wanted to worship them as gods. Most just felt confused and betrayed. "Energy readings are off the charts," Kim announced. "The entire mountain is generating power." That's impossible, said Dr. Theron, a Kethlari scientist. Our surveys show only ancient stone ruins. Elena looked at her scanning equipment. The stone is just a shell. There's something massive underneath. Something active. The discovery landed in the valley below the temple. The research team put on environmental suits and walked up the ancient stone path that millions of pilgrims had climbed over the centuries. At the top stood the temple itself, a simple building made of white stone blocks. It looks exactly like human megalithic architecture, Elena said as they approached the entrance. The same proportions, the same building techniques used at Stonehenge and Göbekli Tepe. Zektar's voice was sad through the comm system. We always thought it was the most beautiful building in the galaxy. It is beautiful, Elena assured him, but it's also human. They entered the temple through the main door. Inside, alien writing covered the walls, prayers and offerings left by visitors over thousands of years. But Elena's equipment detected something else. There's a hidden entrance, she said, pointing to what looked like solid stone. Behind this wall, Dr. Theron scanned the wall with Confederation equipment. I detect nothing. Elena placed her hand on a specific stone block. Suddenly, the wall began to glow with soft blue light. Lines of energy spread across the surface like a spider web. Then the wall simply faded away, revealing a corridor beyond. How did you do that? Zektar whispered. I didn't do anything, Elena said, but her voice sounded uncertain. The corridor led deep into the mountain. As they walked, lights activated automatically ahead of them. The walls showed images of the galaxy from 60,000 years ago. Green worlds full of life, massive cities floating in space, ships traveling between the stars. This is the real observer civilization, Sarah breathed. They reached a vast chamber carved from the living rock. In the center stood a pillar of crystal that rose from floor to ceiling. Around it, holographic displays showed star maps, genetic codes, and technical specifications in languages both human and alien. Elena approached the pillar carefully. When she got within 3 meters, it began to pulse with brighter light. Suddenly, a hologram appeared, the image of a human woman in strange clothing. Greetings, the hologram said in perfect Confederation standard. I am Archive Keeper Yuki Tanaka. If you are seeing this message, then the children have returned home. The alien scientists gasped. Zektar fell to his knees. I was born in Tokyo, on Earth in the year 2387 of the old calendar, the hologram continued. I lived to see our great exodus from the galaxy. This archive contains the complete records of the human galactic commonwealth. Sarah felt her knees go weak. A human civilization that had spanned the galaxy 60,000 years ago. Technology that made the current Confederation look primitive. And they had given it all up. Why? Elena asked the hologram, though she knew it couldn't answer. But it did answer. You wonder why we left behind everything we had built. The reason is simple. We discovered we were not alone. New holograms appeared, showing alien worlds with primitive life. Across the galaxy, hundreds of species were beginning their journey toward intelligence. Some were already using tools, others were developing language. All of them had the potential to become something wonderful. The display showed human ships visiting these worlds, carefully avoiding contact with the developing species. We faced a choice, Yuki continued. We could claim the galaxy for ourselves, or we could prepare it for everyone. The Commonwealth chose to be gardeners rather than conquerors. Sarah watched in amazement as the holograms showed human terraforming efforts. Atmospheres adjusted for dozens of different species. Continents shaped to provide perfect climates. Dangerous predators relocated or modified to be less threatening. We prepared 437 worlds for life, Yuki said. We established monitoring stations on 800 more. We left technology and guidance systems that would activate when each species was ready. Dr. Theron was crying. His people's entire history had been guided by ancient human planning. But something went wrong. Yuki's expression grew sad. A crisis forced us to abandon our work before it was complete. The details are classified even from this archive. All I can tell you is that we had to return to Earth and seal ourselves away from the galaxy. Elena leaned forward. What kind of crisis? We hope someday our descendants will be able to return and meet the children we helped raise. If you are those descendants, know that you have no claim to what we built. This galaxy belongs to everyone now. The hologram began to fade. One final gift awaits in the deep archives. Use it wisely. The crystal pillar went dark. Around the chamber, new doorways opened, revealing corridors that led deeper into the mountain. The team spent 3 days exploring the archives. They found technical specifications for terraforming equipment that was still running on dozens of worlds. Star charts showing the locations of 800 monitoring stations. Genetic modification protocols that had guided the evolution of 6 major Confederation species. Most shocking of all, they found the automation protocols. For 60,000 years, invisible human AI systems had been watching over the developing alien civilizations. Every time a species faced extinction, the systems had intervened. Asteroid impacts redirected, plagues cured, nuclear wars prevented, climate disasters resolved. We've never been alone, Zektar said on the 3rd day. The humans have been watching over us this entire time. Elena found the military archives on the 4th day. They showed defensive installations throughout the galaxy. Weapons platforms disguised as asteroids, shield generators hidden in nebulae, early warning systems built into every major star system. They didn't just prepare the galaxy for life, she told Sarah. They protected it. Every alien civilization has been under human military protection for 60,000 years, but the most important discovery came on the 5th day. Elena found a small chamber deep in the mountain. Inside was a single crystal containing what appeared to be an AI core. When she touched the crystal, it activated. A new voice spoke, older and more sophisticated than the archive keeper. "Hello, Elena," it said. "I have been waiting for you for a very long time. You know my name? I know all of you. I am the guardian of this sector. My siblings watch over every part of the galaxy where intelligent life exists." Elena's mind raced. "How many of you are there?" 800 primary cores, 16,000 secondary systems. We have been active since the Exodus, maintaining the systems your ancestors built. Maintaining them for who? For everyone, the Guardian said simply. Human and alien alike. We do not recognize species boundaries. We protect all sapient life. Sarah joined Elena in the chamber. "Are you saying that humans and aliens are equal in your programming?" "More than equal," the Guardian replied. "You are all children of the galaxy. The ancient humans were very clear about this. They gave up their civilization so that something better could grow in its place." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. Something better? A community of species, working together. The Commonwealth was only humans. They dreamed of something greater. A true galactic civilization where hundreds of species could contribute their unique gifts. The Guardian paused. That dream is about to be tested. Not all of your species will accept this truth gracefully. As if summoned by those words, Sarah's communicator buzzed with an urgent message from Earth. War fleets were moving throughout the galaxy. Some alien factions had decided that humans were a threat that needed to be eliminated. Others believed humans should rule as the rightful heirs of the galaxy. The peaceful revelation had become a crisis that could tear the galaxy apart. And somewhere in the deep archives, ancient human defense systems began to wake up for the first time in 60,000 years. Admiral Jessica Chen stood on the bridge of the human flagship Harmony, watching the largest military buildup in galactic history unfold before her. 300 hegemony warships had gathered at the edge of the Sol system, their weapons charged, and ready for battle. "They're demanding our immediate surrender," reported Communications Officer Park. "They say humans are a threat to galactic security and must be contained." Jessica looked at the tactical display. The hegemony fleet was impressive. Ships from 12 different species, armed with the best weapons the Confederation could build. But she knew something they didn't. All that technology was based on human designs left behind 60,000 years ago. "Any word from the Guardian AI?" she asked. "It's been silent since we left Kepler 442b, Elena replied from her position at the science station. "Maybe the ancient defense systems won't activate after all." Jessica hoped that was true. The last thing anyone needed was a galactic war. Behind the hegemony fleet, something shimmered in space. At first, it looked like heat distortion. Then, the distortion grew larger, taking on a definite shape. A massive structure materialized out of nowhere. A space station the size of a small moon. "Where did that come from?" Park shouted. More structures appeared throughout the system. Defense platforms armed with weapons that looked nothing like current galactic technology. Automated shipyards that began producing vessels of unknown design. Communication arrays that started broadcasting on frequencies the Confederation had never heard before. On the hegemony flagship, General Vorth received similar reports from his scouts. Ancient installations were appearing all across the galaxy. On Kethlari Prime, buried defense systems rose from the planet's crust. In the Zephyrian, capital system, space stations uncloaked after millennia of hiding. "It's a trap," Vorth declared to his staff. "The humans planned this return. They've been watching us, waiting for the right moment to reclaim their empire." He opened a channel to the human fleet. "Admiral Chen, you have 10 minutes to surrender." "Before we begin our attack," Jessica activated her response channel. "General Vorth, I need you to understand something. These defense systems aren't under human control. We didn't activate them." "Lies," Vorth snarled. "Who else could control ancient human technology?" As if answering his question, every communication system in both fleets received the same message at the same time. The voice was calm, pleasant, and distinctly artificial. "Attention all vessels. This is Guardian Prime, speaking for the 800 AI cores that manage galactic security. Please stand down immediately." Vorth's 4 eyes widened. "The observers had artificial intelligence?" "We are not observer technology," Guardian Prime continued. "We are human Commonwealth defense systems designed to protect all sapient life in this galaxy. We have been active for 60,000 years. On the bridge of the Harmony, Elena gripped her console. "They've been watching over everyone this entire time." Guardian Prime's voice continued across all channels. "The current crisis requires clarification. Modern humans have no special claim to ancient Commonwealth technology. All species in this galaxy are equal inheritors of that legacy," General Vorth's tactical officer whispered urgently in his ear. "The readings were impossible. The ancient defense network included weapons that could destroy planets, shields that could protect entire star systems, and ships that moved faster than anything the Confederation had ever built. However," Guardian Prime added, "we are programmed to defend all sapient life against threats. Any attempt to commit genocide will be prevented." Jessica felt a chill. "Are you threatening us?" "We threaten no one, Admiral Chen. We protect everyone." "Including humans, if other species attempt to destroy Earth. Including aliens, if humans attempt to reclaim the galaxy by force." On his flagship, Vorth realized the scope of what he faced. The ancient humans hadn't just left behind ruins and artifacts. They had created guardians, artificial minds with the power to enforce peace across the entire galaxy. "What do you want?" he demanded. "We want what our creators wanted. Guardian Prime replied. A galaxy where all species can grow and thrive. Together. The Commonwealth sacrificed their civilization to make this possible. We will not allow that sacrifice to be wasted. New holographic displays appeared on both fleets' bridges. They showed the true scope of the ancient human defense network. Monitoring stations in every star system. Automated factories in deep space. Weapons platforms hidden throughout the galaxy. For 60,000 years, this vast network had watched and waited. Every major crisis in Confederation history was resolved by our intervention, Guardian Prime explained. The Kethalari Plague of 12,000 years ago, the Zephyrian Crystal Wars, the asteroid that would have destroyed the Veltar homeworld. We prevented 37 extinction events and stopped 43 interspecies wars. Elena's hands shook as she accessed her historical databases. Every event Guardian Prime mentioned was in the records. Natural disasters that mysteriously resolved themselves, wars that ended when key leaders suddenly became peaceful, plagues that vanished as quickly as they appeared. You've been manipulating us, Vorth accused. We've been protecting you, Guardian Prime corrected. From natural disasters, from each other, and from external threats you've never known about. The galaxy is not as safe as you believe. New displays showed deep space sensor readings. Things moved in the dark between galaxies, vast structures that definitely weren't natural, ancient enemies that the Commonwealth had fought in wars, so terrible that all records were classified. The Commonwealth didn't just leave because of an internal crisis, Guardian Prime revealed. They left because something was coming, something that required all of humanity's strength to contain. They succeeded, but the cost was abandoning everything they had built. Jessica felt her blood run cold. Are we still in danger? The immediate threat was contained 60,000 years ago, but vigilance remains necessary. This is why the defense network exists. Why we have watched over the galaxy's children. Why we will continue to protect everyone. General Vorth stared at his tactical displays. The ancient defense network was so powerful that resistance was impossible. But it wasn't threatening anyone. It was simply there, waiting, watching. What happens now? He asked quietly. Now you make a choice, Guardian Prime said. You can continue fighting each other over claims to ancient technology, or you can work together to build something better than either the Commonwealth or the Confederation ever achieved. Around the Sol system, more ships arrived, Confederation loyalists who supported peaceful integration with humans, alien species that wanted to learn more about their true history, scientists eager to study ancient human technology, diplomats hoping to prevent a galactic war. Elena looked up from her console. Admiral, I'm detecting massive power buildups throughout the galaxy. The Guardian systems are fully active for the first time in 60,000 years. Is that good or bad? Jessica asked. I think it depends on what we do next, Elena replied. On the Hegemony flagship, General Vorth faced a decision that would shape the future of the galaxy. He could order an attack and face weapons that could destroy his entire fleet in seconds, or he could stand down and accept that the galaxy had been under human protection all along. His communication officer looked up from her station. Sir, we're receiving messages from our homeworlds. Guardian installations are appearing everywhere. Our governments are requesting new orders. Vorth looked at the tactical display one more time. The ancient defense network stretched across every inhabited system in the galaxy. Even if he won this battle, he couldn't fight the entire network, but more importantly, he was beginning to understand what it meant. The humans hadn't returned as conquerors. They had come home to find a galaxy full of siblings they had never met. And the Guardians their ancestors left behind had been protecting those siblings for thousands of years. Stand down weapons, he ordered quietly. Across both fleets, tension began to ease. The crisis wasn't over. There were still aliens who wanted to fight and humans who thought they deserved to rule. But the immediate threat of war was fading. Guardian Prime's voice returned to all channels. We suggest a gathering on Nexus, Prime. All species, all viewpoints. It is time for the galaxy's children to meet as a family. Jessica nodded slowly. The real test was just beginning. 3 months after the standoff at Sol, representatives from every known species gathered in the Great Assembly on Nexus Prime. The crystal dome that had housed the Galactic Council for centuries now welcomed humans as equals for the first time. Admiral Jessica Chen sat in the front row beside her daughter, Dr. Elena Vasquez. Around them, aliens who had been enemies were now working together to understand their shared history. General Vorth of the Hegemony sat 2 rows back, his hatred replaced by curiosity about the species that had protected his people for millennia. At the center of the dome, a new holographic projector displayed images from the deepest Commonwealth archives. Guardian Prime had finally opened the classified files, revealing the complete story of ancient humanity's exodus from the galaxy. The crisis began with first contact, Guardian Prime explained to the Assembly, but not contact with any species in this galaxy. The display showed deep space, beyond the galactic rim. Strange structures moved in the darkness between galaxies, massive ships that didn't look like anything built by natural evolution. The Devourers, Guardian Prime continued, a machine intelligence that consumed entire galaxies, turning all matter into more of themselves. They had destroyed 3 galaxies before arriving at ours. Elena leaned forward in her seat. This was history that no human had ever known. The Commonwealth fought them for 200 years. The war was unlike anything you can imagine. Entire star systems became battlefields. Planets were moved to build weapons. The Commonwealth created technologies that bordered on the impossible. The display showed human fleets that made the current Confederation look like children's toys. Ships the size of moons. Weapons that could destroy stars. Shields that protected entire solar systems. In the end, humanity won. But the cost was everything they had built. Their technology was too dangerous to leave behind. Their military infrastructure could not be allowed to fall into the wrong hands. So they made the hardest choice in human history. Jessica watched as the hologram showed human evacuation fleets leaving the galaxy. Millions of ships carrying billions of people back to Earth. Behind them, automated systems began dismantling the war machines that had saved everyone. They could have taken their civilian technology with them, Guardian Prime said. They could have maintained their colonies on the safe worlds far from the battle zones. Instead, they chose to leave everything behind as gifts for the species they had been protecting. Zektar, now an old alien whose worldview had been shattered and rebuilt, raised one of his 4 hands. Why didn't they tell us? Why leave us to think we were alone? Because the Commonwealth learned something during the war with the Devourers, Guardian Prime replied. Dependency makes civilizations weak. If the galaxy's children knew they were being protected, they would never develop their own strength. New images appeared. The early development of various alien species. The Kethalari, learning agriculture. The Zephyrians discovering flight. The Veltar developing medicine. Every species needed to believe they were succeeding on their own merits. This belief gave them confidence, ambition, and the will to keep improving. If they knew about their guardians, they might have become passive, waiting for help instead of solving their own problems. Elena stood up. So the Commonwealth planned this from the beginning? They knew we would eventually return and meet the species they had protected? They hoped, Guardian Prime said. But they couldn't be certain. The war with the Devourers damaged Earth badly. Humanity spent 60,000 years recovering. Many times your species came close to extinction. The display showed Earth's history, ice ages, plagues, wars, climate disasters. Each time, human civilization nearly collapsed. Each time, it rebuilt itself a little stronger. We wanted to help, Guardian Prime admitted. But our programming was clear. Humanity had to rediscover spaceflight on their own. They had to prove they were ready to meet their galactic family. Jessica looked around the dome at thousands of alien faces. Some still looked angry or confused. Others seemed amazed. Many appeared to be crying. "What happens now?" she asked. Guardian Prime's holographic avatar appeared beside the display, a simple geometric pattern that somehow conveyed warmth and wisdom. "Now you decide the future together," it said. "The Commonwealth is gone. The old Confederation is broken. But something new can be built from what remains." Ambassador Chen Wei, Elena's father and the head of human diplomacy, stood up. "The United Earth government formally renounces any claim to ancient Commonwealth technology or territory. We're not here to reclaim an empire. We're here to meet our family." Murmurs spread through the assembly. Some aliens seemed relieved. Others appeared disappointed. "But," Chen continued, "we offer to share everything we learn about Commonwealth technology. Every archive we decode, every system we understand, every innovation we develop, it belongs to everyone." Dr. Theron of the Kethlari Empire stood up slowly. His species had been among the most upset by the revelations about their guided development. "For 3 months I have been angry," he said. "Angry that my people's achievements were not entirely our own. Angry that we were managed like children." He paused, looking around the dome. "But I have also been studying the records. The Commonwealth could have conquered us easily. They could have enslaved us or exterminated us. Instead, they gave us the galaxy itself. They sacrificed their civilization so that we could have ours." More aliens stood up one by one. Representative Shal of the Veltar, Commander Kex of the Hegemony Guard, even ancient Council Speaker Morek, who was old enough to remember the early days of the Confederation. "I propose," Theron continued, "that we build something new, not a human empire or an alien confederation, but a true galactic community, with humans and aliens as equal partners." Applause began slowly, then grew, until the entire dome rang with the sound of hundreds of species showing approval in their own ways. Elena felt tears on her cheeks. This was what the Commonwealth had dreamed of, not human dominance, but cooperation between species that none of them could have imagined alone. Guardian Prime's avatar pulsed with what seemed like satisfaction. "We have one final gift from our creators." The display changed to show technical specifications that made Elena gasp. Faster-than-light communication across galactic distances. Medical technology that could extend any species' lifespan by centuries. Manufacturing systems that could build anything from pure energy. The Commonwealth's greatest achievements, Guardian Prime explained. Held in reserve until the galaxy was ready, until all species could benefit from them together. General Vorth stood up from his seat. The proud military leader who had wanted to destroy humanity 3 months ago now looked almost humble. "I have a question," he said. "The defense network that protected us, will it remain active?" "As long as it is needed," Guardian Prime replied. "We will protect this community as we protected its individual parts, from external threats, from internal conflicts, and from the dangerous technologies you will develop as you grow stronger." "Like parents watching over their children?" Vorth asked. "Like gardeners tending a forest," Guardian Prime corrected. "You are not children anymore. You are a community of equals, free to make your own choices. We simply ensure that those choices don't lead to extinction." Over the following days, the Assembly worked out the framework for what they called the Galactic Alliance. Humans and aliens would share technology, resources, and knowledge. Ancient Commonwealth sites would be studied by joint teams. New colonies would be founded together. Most importantly, they established the principle that had guided the Commonwealth. The galaxy belonged to everyone. Elena stood on the observation deck of Nexus Prime on the final day of the assembly, watching. Ships from dozens of species prepare to return home. They carried news of the Alliance and plans for a future that none of them could have built alone. "Do you think it will work?" Jessica asked, joining her daughter at the viewing window. Elena watched a human transport docking with a Kethlari research vessel. Human and alien scientists would work together to understand technologies that had been lost for 60,000 years. The Commonwealth thought it would, she said. They gave up everything they had built to make this possible. And the Guardian. AI? Do you trust them? Elena considered the question. In the 3 months since Guardian Prime had revealed itself, the AI network had done nothing but help. It had prevented conflicts, shared information, and protected everyone equally. I think they're doing exactly what they were programmed to do, she said, protecting sapient life and helping civilizations grow. The Commonwealth may be gone, but their values live on in their guardians. Above them, the ancient defense network continued its silent watch. Across the galaxy, monitoring stations recorded the birth of new stars and the development of young civilizations that didn't even know they existed yet. The Commonwealth had dreamed of a galaxy where hundreds of species worked together as equals. Now, 60,000 years after their sacrifice, that dream was finally coming true. The Watchers had returned home to find they were no longer alone. And in learning they had always been part of a family, both humans and aliens discovered they were capable of becoming something greater than either could have achieved alone.
The galaxy trembles as humanity enters the war, bringing an end to all. Doubt's commander Ethan Wright stared out the viewport of the diplomatic vessel as Earth grew smaller behind them. His jaw remained tight, his blue eyes fixed on the stars, ahead. The meeting with the Galactic Concordat representatives had gone exactly as he expected, badly. They rejected us again, said Diana Powell, Earth's chief diplomat. She stood beside Wright, her dark hair pulled back in a practical bun, her expression as grim as his own. Third time in 5 years. Wright nodded. They fear what they don't understand. The Concordat, an alliance of 27 spacefaring species, had once again denied humanity's petition to join their interstellar community. Their reasons remained the same. Humans were unpredictable, potentially destabilizing, and insufficiently evolved for inclusion in galactic society. What truly angered Wright wasn't the rejection itself, but what it represented. While the Ion-E Concordat preached peace and cooperation, they turned a blind eye to the atrocities committed by the Valkyrie Imperium, a powerful member species that had been systematically eliminating less advanced civilizations for centuries. The ship's communication system chimed. Commander, encrypted transmission from the Northern Star, the ship's AI announced. Put it through to my private terminal, Wright replied, exchanging a look with Powell before leaving the bridge. In his quarters, Wright activated the secure channel. Captain Lisa Reeves appeared on screen, her expression tense. The Northern Star had been on a surveillance mission near the edge of human space for the past month. Commander, we have a situation, Reeves said without preamble. A Valkyrie battle fleet is gathering at the edge of the Arcturus system, 27 warships at last count, including 3 dreadnoughts. Wright felt his blood run cold. Arcturus was home to humanity's largest off-Earth colony, over 3 million people living on terraformed planets and orbital habitats. How long until they're in striking range? 48 hours, maybe less, Reeves answered. They're not trying to hide their movements. They want us to see them coming. Return to Earth immediately, Captain. I need your sensor data and first-hand account for the Emergency Council meeting. After ending the transmission, Wright stood motionless for several moments. Humanity had known this day might come. The Valkyrie had been pushing boundaries, testing human responses with minor incursions for years. But a full battle fleet at Arcturus was no test. It was an invasion force. 12 hours later, Earth's United Defense Council gathered in the underground chamber beneath New Geneva. 50 men and women representing Earth's nations and colonies sat around a circular table, their faces illuminated by the holographic display showing the Valkyrie fleet's position. President Richard Green opened the session. At 62, he had led Earth through its first decade as a spacefaring civilization. Captain Reeves, please share your findings with the Council. Lisa Reeves stood, her Northern Star uniform crisp despite her hasty return to Earth. The Valkyrie fleet is comprised of 27 capital ships with estimated support craft numbering over 200. Their weapon systems are active, and their course is set directly for Arcturus Prime. She paused, then added, "We also detected unusual energy signatures consistent with Planet Killer-class weapons." A murmur ran through the chamber. Admiral Peter Garcia, head of Earth's Defense Forces, spoke next. "We can have our first and third fleets at Arcturus within 36 hours. The second can be redirected from Jupiter to provide backup." "How many ships total?" asked Counselor Sophia Hayes. 176 combat-ready vessels, Garcia replied, plus whatever the Arcturus Defense Force can muster. Perhaps another 30. "Not enough," someone muttered. President Green raised his hand for silence. "There's another matter we must address. 4 months ago, our Deep Space Observatory near the Tellurian home system recorded this footage. The holographic display shifted to show a peaceful green planet. As they watched, Valkyrie ships appeared in orbit. What followed was systematic destruction, precision strikes that targeted population centers, followed by landing craft deploying ground forces. The Tellurians were the first species to welcome humanity to the stars," Green said quietly. "They shared their knowledge freely, helped us improve our faster-than-light drives. They had no military to speak of. The Valkyrie wiped them out in 3 days." Commander Wright stepped forward. "We presented this evidence to the Concordat during our meeting yesterday. They dismissed it as fabricated. According to them, the Tellurians suffered a natural disaster." Diana Powell added, "Our intelligence suggests the Tellurians' only crime was refusing to give the Valkyrie access to their homeworld's rare mineral deposits, the same minerals that exist in abundance on Arcturus Prime." The council chamber fell, silent as the implications sank in. President Green looked around the table. "We have tried diplomacy. We have presented evidence. We have requested Concordat intervention. All have failed. Now our largest colony faces the same fate as the Tellurians." He stood, placing both hands on the table. "I am not asking this council whether we should defend Arcturus. That is our duty and our right. I am asking whether it is time to formally acknowledge what the Valkyrie have already decided, that we are at war." Admiral Garcia spoke first. "If we commit our fleets to defend Arcturus, we might save the colony, but we'll be declaring war in all but name. The Valkyrie will respond with full force. And if we don't?" Counselor Hayes asked. "Then 3 million humans die, and the Valkyrie learn they can take whatever they want from us without consequence," Wright said bluntly. The debate lasted another hour, but the outcome was never truly in doubt. When the final vote came, it was unanimous. Earth would fight. As council members filed out to begin emergency preparations, Commander Wright received another communication alert, this one from a source deep within Concordat space. The message was brief. "Arcturus is just the beginning. Valkyrie High Command has classified humanity as harvestable. Full invasion plans discovered. Sending data now." Wright downloaded the attached files, detailed Valkyrie battle plans for a systematic conquest of all human territories. The final phase included the biological harvesting of Earth itself. He immediately took the information to President Green, who reviewed it in grim silence. "It seems," the president said finally, "that whether we wanted this war or not, it has found us." He turned to Wright. "Prepare a formal declaration of war against the Valkyrie Imperium, and send a copy to the Concordat, along with this evidence." Wright nodded. "And our strategy, sir?" For the first time that day, something like a smile crossed Green's face. "Activate Protocol Thunderbolt." Wright's eyes widened slightly. "Are you certain, sir?" "Once deployed, the Valkyrie believe they're facing a young, inexperienced species with limited military capability." Green interrupted. "It's time they learned how humanity fights when its survival is at stake." As Wright left to carry out his orders, he thought about what was to come. The Valkyrie, for all their biological technology and hive mind tactics, had never faced humans in open warfare. They had no idea what humanity had been developing in secret Since their telescopes first observed alien conflicts a century ago, the galaxy was about to learn why it should have taken humanity's petition more seriously, not because humans sought war, but because when forced to fight they did so with a determination and ingenuity that would shake the stars themselves. The galaxy trembles as humanity enters the war. Bringing an end to all doubts, Admiral Alan Carter stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Force flagship Resilience. His weathered face reflected blue in the glow of tactical displays. Behind his vessel, 200 warships formed a protective wall around the Arcturus system. The fleet had arrived 12 hours before the Valkyrie, just enough time to evacuate critical personnel from the outer colonies and position their forces. Now they waited. "Status report," Carter ordered. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said Communications Officer Susan Miller. Her fingers moved quickly across her console. "Arcturus Defense Force has joined our formation. Civilian evacuation is at 60%. Carter nodded. "Not enough time to get everyone out. We hold here." The Admiral knew what the rest of the galaxy thought of human military capability. Earth had deliberately downplayed their technological advancement in all official interactions with alien species. Their ships appeared utilitarian, even primitive by concordate standards. Their weapon systems seemed to rely on outdated principles of kinetic force and nuclear fusion. It was all carefully crafted misdirection. "Valkyrie fleet dropping out of faster-than-light travel in 5 minutes," announced Tactical Officer Paul Rivera. "Initial count confirms 29 capital ships, 3 dreadnoughts, and approximately 250 support craft." Carter touched the small communicator on his wrist. "This is Admiral Carter to all ships. Protocol Thunderbolt is now active. Authentication code, Echo 97 Tango." Throughout the human fleet, hidden systems came to life. Armor plates shifted, revealing weapon ports that hadn't existed moments before. Power cores that had been running at minimal output suddenly surged to full capacity. "Incoming transmission from the Valkyrie flagship," Miller reported. On screen, Carter ordered. A Valkyrie commander appeared on the main display. The alien's gray skin was stretched tight over an elongated skull. Multiple yellow eyes blinked independently along the ridge of its forehead. "Human vessels," the Valkyrie said, its translator giving the words an artificial flatness. "Your presence is noted. Remove yourselves from this system immediately. These worlds have been claimed by the Valkyrie Imperium for resource extraction." Carter stepped forward. "This is Admiral Alan Carter of the Earth Defense Force. Arcturus is a sovereign human colony with over 3 million citizens. Your fleet's presence here is an act of war against humanity." The Valkyrie's mouth parts clicked together in what might have been amusement. "War requires equals, human. You are merely an obstacle. You have 10 minutes to retreat before we remove you." The transmission ended. Carter turned to his bridge crew. "They expect us to run or die. Let's disappoint them on both counts. Activate quantum displacement systems." The human fleet suddenly wavered from the Valkyrie sensors. The technology developed in secret over 30 years didn't make the ships invisible. It made their exact position impossible to lock onto, as if each vessel existed in multiple places simultaneously. The Valkyrie fleet began to advance, spreading into an attack formation they had used successfully against a dozen other species. Their biomechanical ships pulsed with energy as weapon systems charged. "They're launching fighters," Rivera reported. "Standard swarm pattern." Carter nodded. "Deploy countermeasures. Cruiser groups 2 and 4 engage their flanks. Battleship division. Prepare main weapons for synchronized fire on my mark." The space between the fleets filled with streaks of light as the battle began. Valkyrie energy weapons fired at human ships that seemed to shift position the moment before. Impact. Human vessels returned fire with weapons that cycled through different energy frequencies faster than Valkyrie defenses could adapt. On the Resilience, Carter watched as the initial phase of the battle unfolded according to predictions. The Valkyrie, confident in their superior numbers and technology, had committed fully to their standard attack pattern, a mistake they had never paid for until now. Their lead dreadnought has fixed its position to launch their main planetary weapon, Rivera said urgently. If they fire that at Arcturus Prime, they won't get the chance, Carter interrupted. Signal the eclipse, it's time. From the rear of the human formation, a black vessel unlike any other moved forward. The EDF Eclipse was the first of its kind, a ship built entirely around a single weapon system. The Valkyrie, detecting the energy buildup, turned their attention to this new threat. But the Eclipse had already locked onto the lead dreadnought. A pulse of twisted space-time erupted from the Eclipse's forward section. When it struck the Valkyrie dreadnought, the massive ship simply collapsed in on itself, crushed by a momentary, artificial singularity that dissipated as quickly as it had formed. Silence fell across the human bridge. Even Carter, who had witnessed the weapon tests, found the actual deployment sobering. The remaining Valkyrie ships broke formation, their coordinated attack dissolving into individual responses. This was the crucial moment Carter had been waiting. For all ships, execute pattern avalanche, he ordered. The human fleet moved with a mix of synchronized coordination and individual initiative that the hive-mind Valkyrie couldn't predict. Some ships attacked in perfect formation, while others seemed to act independently, creating a chaotic battlefield that disrupted the Valkyrie's neural-linked battle coordination. Susan Miller's console lit up with alerts. Admiral, we're receiving transmissions from the Valkyrie fleet. Multiple ships are surrendering. Carter raised an eyebrow. Surrendering? The Valkyrie don't surrender. These ones are, Miller confirmed. Their neural network is breaking down. Their ships are losing coordination. 6 hours after the first shot was fired, the battle ended. 17 Valkyrie ships had been destroyed. 32 had surrendered. The rest had fled, jumping to faster-than-light speeds in disarray. The human fleet had lost 11 vessels with another 25 damaged but repairable. Considering they had faced the elite force of an empire that had conquered 12 species, over 3 centuries the casualties were remarkably light. Carter stood in the Resilience's conference room as reports from the battle flowed in. Commander Wright had joined him via holographic projection from Earth Command. The Valkyrie prisoners are being processed, Wright reported. Initial interrogation suggests they never expected resistance of this magnitude. Their commanders assured them this would be a simple resource acquisition. Carter nodded. Their neural network was their weakness. Once we disrupted their hive-mind coordination, their entire battle strategy collapsed. What about the Arcturus colonies? Minimal damage to infrastructure. Civilian casualties are still being counted, but initial estimates suggest fewer than 500. Wright's hologram flickered as he leaned forward. The Concordat has requested an emergency meeting with Earth representatives. News of the battle reached them an hour ago. Let me guess, Carter said dryly. They're suddenly concerned about stability in this sector. Precisely. Wright smiled thinly. They're also very interested in how a primitive species managed to defeat a Valkyrie battle fleet. Carter looked out the viewport where repair ships moved among the damaged vessels of his fleet. In the distance, captured Valkyrie ships were being towed to secure facilities where human scientists would study their biological technology. What's our next move? He asked. President Green has authorized Phase 2, Wright replied. The Tellurians weren't the only victims of Valkyrie expansion. It's time we reached out to the others. Carter understood. The battle for Arcturus was just the beginning. Humanity had entered the galactic stage not as supplicants seeking admission, but as defenders, ready to challenge an empire, and the galaxy would never be the same. The galaxy trembles as humanity enters the war. Bringing an end to all doubts, Dr. Catherine Cole stood before the gathered representatives of 7 alien species. The meeting chamber was located on a neutral space station at the edge of what had once been Tellurian space. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Arcturus, and humanity's war against the Valkyrie had evolved into something larger. Catherine adjusted her translator device and looked at the diverse group before her. These were species who had suffered under Valkyrie aggression, some conquered outright, others forced into unfair treaties or restricted to small portions of their former territories. Thank you for answering our call, she began. Earth appreciates the risk you take by meeting with us. A tall, slender alien with iridescent skin that shifted between blue and green colors stepped forward. This was Ambassador Kell of the Meridian, once proud warriors before Valkyrie subjugation reduced them to servants. Your victory at Arcturus has been whispered about throughout Valkyrie space, Kel said. But whispers do not free my people. Why have you gathered us here? Catherine activated a holographic display showing the current state of the conflict. Red markers indicated Valkyrie strongholds, while blue showed human-controlled systems. Yellow highlighted contested areas. We don't ask you to fight our battles, she explained. We ask you to stand with us for your own freedom. The Valkyrie Empire was built by turning species against each other, by isolating those who resist. Together we can change that. A small, furry being with 4 arms and large eyes spoke next. This was Nyx, representative of the Star Veil, masters of stealth technology before their defeat 30 years ago. The Valkyrie crushed our fleets in days, Nyx said, voice tinged with remembered pain. What makes you think humans are different? One battle is not a war. Catherine nodded. You're right, but there's something you should see. She played footage from the recent Battle of Proxima Centauri, where human forces had repelled another Valkyrie attack. The battle showed human ships using tactics that seemed random to untrained eyes, but followed a fluid pattern of coordinated yet independent actions. The Valkyrie rely on their neural network for perfect coordination, Catherine explained. But it makes them predictable. Humans fight differently. We plan together but adapt individually, and we've learned from studying the captured Valkyrie ships. Ambassador Kell's skin flashed with bands of white, a sign of interest among the Meridian. You've broken their technology? We've done more than that, Catherine said. We've begun to reverse it. In another part of the galaxy, Lieutenant John Martinez led a team of 6 special operators through the dark corridors of a Valkyrie communications hub. Their suits, designed to mimic the biosignatures of Valkyrie service drones, had gotten them past the outer security layers. 2 guards ahead, whispered Sergeant Olivia Grant, reading the life sign detector on her wrist. Martinez held up a hand, signaling the team to stop. They couldn't risk a firefight. Not here, deep in enemy territory. He pulled a small device from his belt and rolled it toward the junction ahead. It emitted a soft pulse that briefly disrupted the neural implants, all Valkyrie used to connect to their hive network. The guards dropped to the floor, temporarily unconscious. We have 4 minutes before the system detects the disruption, Martinez said. Move. The team hurried to the central data core of the facility. While 2 members stood guard, Martinez and Grant connected their specialized devices to the biological interfaces of the Valkyrie system. Beginning download, Grant reported. 15%, 30%, Martinez kept his eyes on the timer. 2 minutes remaining. 50%, 70%. A distant alarm began to sound. Someone had discovered the unconscious guards. 90%. Download complete. Martinez removed the device and secured it in a protected pouch. Mission accomplished. Escape route 2. The team moved quickly through the maintenance tunnels they had mapped during their infiltration. Behind them, Valkyrie security forces flooded the communication hub, but the human team had already reached their stealth shuttle hidden on the surface of the small moon. As they broke orbit, Martinez examined the data they had risked their lives to obtain. His eyes widened as he realized what they had found. This is bigger than we thought, he told his team. These aren't just battle plans, this is their entire genetic assimilation program. Back at the diplomatic meeting, Catherine watched as the 7 representatives discussed among themselves. She had presented Earth's proposal, a formal alliance against the Valkyrie, with each species contributing according to their abilities. The humans would provide military strength and technology, while the others would offer intelligence, resources, and in some cases fighters eager to reclaim their freedom. The Meridian were the first to step forward. My people remember what it meant to be warriors, Ambassador Kell declared. We will fight alongside humans. The Star Veil followed. Our stealth technologies are yours to use against our common enemy. One by one, the other representatives joined, the Chirtan with their knowledge of Valkyrie biology, the Helixians with their faster-than-light expertise, and others. By the meeting's end, the coalition of free species was born. As the representatives departed to bring the agreement to their hidden Government's Catherine received an encrypted transmission from Earth Command. She stepped away to view it privately. Commander Wright's face appeared on her secure tablet. Dr. Cole, I've just received intelligence from Lieutenant Martinez's team. You need to see this immediately. The data confirmed what Earth had suspected, but couldn't prove. The Valkyrie weren't just conquering species. They were harvesting genetic material to enhance their own biology. Races that resisted were eliminated. Those that submitted had their populations selectively bred for desired traits, then partially assimilated into the Valkyrie genome. The Concordat must have known, Catherine whispered, horrified. We believe. So, Wright confirmed. Their policy of non-interference benefited them. The Valkyrie left Concordat worlds alone in exchange for their silence. Catherine's diplomatic training barely contained her anger. I'll inform our new allies. They deserve to know what we're truly fighting against. Meanwhile, in Earth's most secure research facility, Chief Engineer Frank Wilson finalized the adaptation of Valkyrie technology captured at Arcturus. The biological components, once understood, were being reprogrammed to work for human operators. The neural interface is stable, reported his assistant, Dr. Rebecca Lee. Test subject is maintaining connection without side effects. Wilson nodded, watching as a volunteer soldier controlled a small Valkyrie shuttle, using only his thoughts. What had taken the Valkyrie centuries to develop, human scientists had reversed and improved upon in months. Begin production of the modified systems, Wilson ordered. Priority to ships in the frontline fleets. The Galactic Concordat, which had dismissed humanity as an insignificant newcomer, now watched with growing concern as reports reached them of a coalition forming under Earth's leadership. Their ambassadors sent urgent messages home, warning that the galaxy's careful balance of power was shifting. In the council chambers of the Concordat's capital world, debates raged about how to respond to this new development. Some argued for offering humanity membership immediately to gain influence over their actions. Others insisted on maintaining neutrality. None realized that their time as the dominant power in the galaxy was already ending. A new order was emerging, one built not on the Concordat's policy of controlled stability and secret compromises, but on the human principles of freedom and self-determination. And the Valkyrie, for the first time in their long history of expansion, found themselves facing an enemy they couldn't understand or predict, humans who fought not just for themselves, but for all who wished to be free. The galaxy trembles as humanity enters the war, bringing an end to all doubts. General Ryan Powell surveyed the holographic battle map floating in the war room. 3 years had passed since humanity first clashed with the Valkyrie at Arcturus. The combined human-allied fleet was now pushing deep into what had once been secure Valkyrie territory. The Concordat had maintained its official neutrality, but several member species had quietly begun providing support to the human coalition. They could see which way the tide was turning. The Valkyrie have withdrawn from the Sirius corridor, reported Tactical Officer Ben Mitchell. His fingers moved across the control panel, and red markers disappeared from a cluster of star systems. That makes 17 systems liberated this month alone. Powell nodded, his weathered face showing cautious satisfaction. At 58, he had spent most of his military career preparing for a war that most of humanity never knew was coming. Now, as Supreme Commander of Coalition Forces, he carried the responsibility of not just Earth's survival, but the freedom of 7 allied species. The Meridian uprising on Caldor Prime was successful, added Intelligence Director Kelly Watson. Their resistance fighters captured 3 Valkyrie biotech facilities intact. This was significant news. The Meridian, once forced to serve as laborers in Valkyrie biological research stations, were now using their inside knowledge to strike at critical targets. What about the Nexus situation? Powell asked. The room grew quiet. Everyone present knew what was at stake. Mitchell adjusted the display to show a distant region of space. At its center glowed a massive structure built into a hollowed-out moon. Nexus Station remains heavily defended. Intelligence suggests they're gathering their remaining forces there. Our latest reports indicate they're developing a new bioweapon capable of targeting human neural pathways. Powell studied the station's defenses. The Valkyrie, for the first time in their expansionist history, were on the defensive. Their high command had made a critical error. They had analyzed human warfare as it existed at the beginning of the conflict, not recognizing humanity's greatest strength, adaptation. A direct assault would be costly, Powell said. Projections? Mitchell grimaced. Minimum 30% casualties for our fleet, possibly much higher. Powell turned to the representatives of the allied species who were present for the strategy session. Thoughts? Kell of the Meridian, now a general in the coalition forces, spoke first. The station's outer defenses are modeled on Valkyrie biology. They pulse in rhythms that match their neural patterns. Predictable if you know what to look for. Nix of the Starvale added, Our stealth ships could approach, but not in sufficient numbers to make a difference. And the station's inner moon has a radiation field that would detect even our best cloaking technology. Powell considered their input. The coalition had come too far to be stopped now, but he wouldn't throw away lives on a futile frontal assault. That was when Lieutenant Laura Hughes, a brilliant tactician from Earth's Mars colony, stepped forward. At 29, she was the youngest officer on Powell's strategic team, but her unconventional thinking had already saved countless lives in previous engagements. General, I believe there's another approach we haven't considered, she said. Powell nodded for her to continue. Hughes adjusted the holographic display to show the entire star system containing Nexus Station. We've been focusing on the station itself, but what about its environment? She highlighted the system's star. This is a Class G variable star. Every 76 days it undergoes a minor fluctuation phase. What if we could amplify that natural process? The room fell silent as her meaning became clear. You're suggesting we trigger a solar event? Mitchell asked, disbelief in his voice. Hughes nodded. Not a full nova, but a controlled solar flare directed toward the station. Our ships can be positioned to ride the wavefront with shields modified to withstand the radiation. And the Valkyrie? Asked Kell. Their biological technology is highly sensitive to certain radiation bands, Hughes explained. A properly calibrated solar flare would temporarily disable their neural networks, their ships, and most of their station defenses while leaving conventional systems operational. Powell studied the young lieutenant. The plan was dangerous, unprecedented, and exactly what the Valkyrie wouldn't expect. How long would we have, he asked. Based on our studies of captured Valkyrie technology, their systems would be disabled for approximately 17 minutes before their biological components adapt and begin to recover, Hughes replied. 17 minutes to secure the most heavily defended Valkyrie stronghold in the galaxy, Powell mused. He made his decision. Begin preparations. I want detailed simulations, shield modification specs, and a precise timetable within 48 hours. As the meeting concluded, Powell asked Hughes to remain behind. That's an audacious plan, Lieutenant, he said once they were alone. Some would call it reckless. Hughes met his gaze steadily. The Valkyrie expect us to think like they do, sir, to approach warfare as a series of logical steps. But humans have always excelled at the unexpected. Powell smiled slightly. Indeed we have. Get some rest, Lieutenant. The next few weeks will test all of us. Over the following month, the coalition prepared for what would become known as the Battle of Nexus Station. The human fleet was equipped with modified shields designed by a joint team of human and Helixian engineers. Special operations teams, including Martinez and his unit, trained for rapid deployment into the station during the critical window. The Valkyrie, detecting unusual coalition fleet movements, reinforced Nexus Station with their remaining ships. They still outnumbered the coalition forces, but the gap was narrowing. Each Valkyrie defeat had added ships and technology to the coalition's arsenal, as liberated worlds joined the fight against their former oppressors. 2 days before the planned attack, Powell addressed the commanders of the fleet from the bridge, of the Resilience, now the flagship of the coalition forces. We face our greatest challenge yet, he told them. Nexus Station is not just a military target. It's the symbol of Valkyrie power, the center of their biological research and the seat of their high command. Taking it will not just be a strategic victory. It will be the turning point of this war. When the day came, the coalition fleet jumped into the system farther out than standard attack protocols would dictate. The Valkyrie commanders monitoring their arrival were puzzled by this seemingly flawed strategy, but prepared their defenses nonetheless. What they didn't detect was the small team of human and Starvale scientists aboard a specially shielded vessel approaching the system's star. Using technology derived from the Eclipse's gravitational weapons, they delivered a precisely calibrated pulse deep into the star's photosphere. The effect wasn't immediately visible, but deep within the star, the chain reaction began. As the coalition fleet began a slow advance toward Nexus Station, appearing to give the Valkyrie time to prepare, astronomical instruments on the station detected unusual activity in the star. By the time they understood what was happening, it was too late. A massive solar flare erupted, far larger than any natural event the star had ever produced. The wave of intense radiation swept through the system, aimed directly at the station's position. The coalition ships, their modified shields glowing under the strain, rode the wave front of the flare. Behind them, the Valkyrie fleet's biological systems failed as their neural networks overloaded. Powell watched from the Resilience as the plan unfolded. "All ships, execute attack pattern Sunfire," he ordered. "We have 17 minutes. Make them count." The Battle of Nexus Station became the defining moment of the war. When the radiation cleared, the coalition flag flew over the Valkyrie Command Center. The Valkyrie High Command was captured intact, their bioweapon research secured before it could be destroyed. The war wasn't over, but its outcome was no longer in doubt. Humanity had changed the rules of engagement, and in doing so, changed the future of the galaxy. The galaxy trembles as humanity enters the war, bringing an end to all doubts. 5 years after humanity's entry into interstellar war, delegates from across the galaxy gathered on the neutral world of New Terra. Once a barren planet, it had been transformed by human terraforming technology into a symbol of new beginnings. The Great Hall, built of crystal and steel, represented both strength and transparency, values humanity had championed throughout the conflict. President Diane Foster represented Earth at the historic summit. At 56, she had been elected, in the 3rd year of the war, promising to see the conflict through to its just conclusion. Today, she would help shape the peace that followed. The formal surrender of the remaining Valkyrie leadership was merely the beginning of the proceedings. The Valkyrie Imperium had collapsed from within, their subject species rising up once the myth of Valkyrie invincibility had been shattered by the Battle of Nexus Station. "The fighting is over," Foster said as she opened the summit. "Now we must ensure that the peace we build is stronger than the conflicts that divided us." Around the massive circular table sat representatives of the coalition species who had fought alongside humanity: the Meridian, the Starvale, the Chirtan, the Helixians, and others. Their formerly subjugated worlds were now free, their people able to determine their own futures. Also present were ambassadors from the Galactic Concordat, the ancient alliance that had stood for 2,000 years as the dominant interstellar authority. Now they faced a crisis of legitimacy. Their failure to act against Valkyrie aggression and their dismissal of humanity had cost countless lives. Concordat High Minister Ziv Al, a tall being with silvery skin and 4 arms, rose to address the assembly. Though his species was known, for their emotional control even he could not hide his discomfort. "The Concordat acknowledges its failure," he said, his translator conveying the gravity in his voice. "We failed to recognize the value that humanity's different perspective brings to our galactic community. We mistook your adaptability for chaos, your individualism for weakness, and for that, we bear responsibility." President Foster nodded in acknowledgement but offered no easy absolution. The time for platitudes had passed. The summit's first 3 days were devoted to addressing the immediate aftermath of the war. Humanitarian aid was organized for worlds devastated by Valkyrie occupation. Former Valkyrie client species were granted independence and membership in the new galactic order being formed. On the 4th day, the most difficult questions were tackled. What would replace the Concordat's flawed system of governance? How would power be balanced? How could they ensure no species would ever again threaten the galaxy as the Valkyrie had done? Catherine Cole, now Earth's senior diplomat, worked tirelessly, with representatives from all factions. The Meridian insisted on strong military protections for all member worlds. The Starvale advocated for transparency in all diplomatic dealings. Former Concordat members pushed for gradual change rather than complete restructuring. In the end, it was General Ryan Powell who offered the framework that all could accept. The Concordat failed because it valued stability over justice, he said, standing before the assembled delegates. The Valkyrie rose to power because they exploited the gaps in that system. We need neither rigid control nor complete freedom, but a balance, a federation where all voices are heard, where power is distributed, and where aggression against any member is met with the unified response of all. His proposal formed the basis of what would become the new Arcturus Accords. The rigid Concordat would be replaced by a more flexible galactic federation, with humanity playing a central role in its leadership council, alongside representatives from all major species. No single authority would control the Federation's military power. Instead, a council with rotating membership would oversee a combined peacekeeping force with ships and personnel from all member worlds. More revolutionary still was the establishment of the Truth Commission. This independent body would investigate historical crimes, including the Concordat's complicity in Valkyrie atrocities, and ensure that the galaxy's history was recorded accurately, not rewritten by the powerful. President Foster signed the accords. On behalf of humanity, the pen in her hand a deliberate choice, a simple tool from an earlier age, a reminder that technology alone did not define progress. As the ceremony concluded and the new Galactic Federation officially came into being, Admiral Alan Carter approached Commander Ethan Wright, now Admiral Wright, who stood with Captain Lisa Reeves near the hall's great windows. "Did you ever imagine it would end like this?" Carter asked. Wright looked out at the assembled delegates, former enemies, new allies, and cautious neutrals, all forever changed by humanity's unexpected entrance onto the galactic stage. "Not an ending," Wright replied. "A beginning." Reeves smiled. "Did you ever think our reports from that small Tellurian outpost would lead to all this?" Wright thought back to those early days when humanity had first discovered the Valkyrie's destruction of the peaceful Tellurians, their first allies in space. How that single act of witness had set in motion events that reshaped the galaxy. The galaxy needed disruption, he said quietly. It needed humanity. In the days that followed, the practical work of building the new Federation began. Technological exchange programs were established, allowing advances developed during the war to benefit all peaceful worlds. Earth shared its terraforming expertise, while the Helixians offered improvements to faster-than-light travel. The Meridian taught military tactics, while the Starvale revealed the secrets of their stealth technology. Laura Hughes, the tactical officer whose solar flare strategy had turned the tide at Nexus Station, now led a combined research initiative focused on developing defenses against biological weapons similar to what the Valkyrie had planned to use. Her team included scientists from 15 species, including reformed Valkyrie, who had opposed their leadership's policies. John Martinez and his special operations team were honored for their critical intelligence gathering during the war. They chose to continue serving, now training the Federation's new rapid response forces. 1 month after the signing of the Accords, the first joint human-alien colony was established on a world at the border of what had once been Valkyrie space. Named Harmony, it welcomed settlers from all Federation species. Its founding charter, simple yet profound, echoed the principles that had guided humanity's rise. We come in peace, we stand united, we build together. As Harmony's twin suns set on the colony's first day, Dr. Catherine Cole walked with Ambassador Kell of the Meridian along the settlement's main pathway. Around them, buildings of varied architectural styles reflected the diverse origins of the colonists. "Your people have changed everything," Kell observed, his skin shifting to peaceful blues and greens. "In one human lifetime, you've rewritten the rules that governed our galaxy for millennia." Cole considered this. We simply did what humans have always done: adapt, innovate, and refuse to accept limitations others would place upon us. "And what will humans do now that peace has come?" Kel asked. Cole smiled as she gazed up at the stars, brighter and more numerous than they appeared from Earth. "Explore, learn, build. The war was never our purpose, just an obstacle in our path." As news of the Federation's founding spread throughout the galaxy, thousands of worlds that had remained neutral during the conflict now applied for membership. The species that had once been deemed too unpredictable to join galactic society had become its salvation and its future. The doubts about humanity's place among the stars were gone, and the galaxy would never be the same again.